The vibes, maybe. PVM, the talk show. One, one fraction of this marvelous and dynamic team. I go by the name of Dante Dash Smith. And guys, thank y'all for tuning in Sunday night. Know y'all probably tailgating this Eagles Cowboys game, getting ready. Fly Eagles fly. We about to take them down tonight. Guys, we got a nice topic for y'all. We're going to be talking about compromise. So, for those who weren't in the room on Wednesday, we had a nice little live. Had a topic. Got extremely off topic with the topic. But got the guys. So we're gonna recapture the essence of that episode. Because in that episode, although we got extremely off topic, we got on topic with a topic. Compromise. Compromising within relationships, understanding, guidance, everything. So, the guys at PVM, that is. Shav, Jeide, Juice, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. So let me post this topic, and then I'm going to bring in the fellas. And then, we'll start off this marvelous conversation. Also got to send one out to the fellas because I actually forgot. Hey, Mother Body, how you doing, love? So let me send one out to Juice right now because I actually forgot to tell him. Charge it to the mind, charge it to the soul. Also, let me bring in the fellas. Also, to anybody that's entering the live, what's the vibes? How y'all energy? How y'all feeling today? It's Sunday. How's the weather? How's y'all energy? How's y'all mental health? We don't really ask that enough. We just jump on this and assume y'all good. So, how's y'all mental health? Hope everybody is tapped in mentally good. Fellas, what's good with y'all?
Yo.
Now, I am hearing the static in one episode.
Yeah. The echo's there.
Yeah.
Earbud.
Let me see. Let me throw
Headphones and
mine in.
earbud.
Oh.
How y'all? Do y'all hear anything? Y'all hear the echo?
I mean, nah, I don't hear any echo. Can y'all hear me?
No, I don't hear no echo. I'm trying to find
Nah, I don't hear
headphones.
no echo. I don't hear no echo.
No echo?
Nah.
Good. I don't hear no echo either. All right, so we good.
Right on,
No,
right
it
on.
sounds good.
All right. So, like I was saying to the audience, on Wednesday we had a nice topic that we got completely off topic with. But getting off topic, we got on topic with a new topic, and we was talking about compromise. Compromise within relationships, platonic and romantic, And with that, I have a question that I want to kind of, start off today's conversation with and introduce it to you. And, well, introduce it to the both of you. And then when Juice is able to jump up in, he can answer it, you know. But we'll get to that later on. As far as the question, where do you define that line of compromise and overpouring within a person? And Jetty,
Where
you
do I
can start
define
us
the
off.
line?
Yeah, and where do you create? Yeah, where do you define that line? Like where do you define that line within yourself where you like, you know, I'm compromising too much of myself by, giving this person this, as opposed to holding back and being like, I gotta maintain this for me, for self.
Compromise is balance, man. That's how I look at it. Compromise is balance. It's a difference. If we out here making McDonald's arches, I'm with it. But I ain't making no lowercase h's, if you feel what I'm saying. I ain't bending backwards while you standing up straight. Compromise is balance. So if I'm bending backwards, you gotta do some bending too. Compromise is balance. Like I compromise so that we can have a mutual understanding in the way that we communicate and execute. I'm not compromising so that I can give you so much of myself that I become less of who I am and you can stay in whatever box or in whatever world that you have created for yourself. That's not what compromise is. Compromise is when two people understand that this shit is larger than us and there are things that individually we need to put aside for the greater good. And I don't even like the term greater good, so I'm gonna change it. There's things that we need to put aside so we can get shit done.
Chef, same question.
I'm here now. That's my headphones. Because it's like perfectly sounding. And also, the other catch is real quick. Whenever we do these joints and y'all do them, turn your speaker volume down so the bleed from the speaker don't run back into the microphone. Cause I just turned my speaker volume down and I can hear Jeide and you
Static.
without no like
All right, right on,
nothing
right on.
going on. Yeah.
Right on.
Yo, so everything has multifacets. Compromise has so many fucking layers, right? Because there's compromise based upon love, business. Well, compromise based upon reason changes the compromising boundaries. Because some shit you may not take, you willing to deal with if it gets you somewhere. Like Jeide was saying, you making M's, not H's. You know what I mean? Well, you know, the niggas ain't gonna be too mad about making some McDonald's signs and doing it the way McDonald's want. But if a motherfucker wants you to make some H's and then want to underpay you, but want you to work them same hours like you doing a McDonald's sign, well, we got a new issue. You know what I mean? Me personally, my compromise is based upon productivity. Like, if you want me to compromise, it's got to be like a progress or productivity in the mix. Because I can find balance pretty well by my fucking self. The catch to this situation is me and this other person figuring out why we're compromising to make a result. So I'm more leaning towards compromise in the name of progression and results, not just right and wrong, not just appealing to someone's feelings, more so some shit that is going to help whatever we're trying to do right now. Whether it's relationship, business, any of that.
I can dig on that. I like that. So we got a couple comments that I want to hit before we continue. AP, what's up? She jumped in and she said balance is definitely needed. It can't be one person making all the change. And compromise is key.
Facts, man. Facts. You ever try playing seesaw by yourself? Shit boring as fuck. And there ain't no fulfillment in playing seesaw by yourself. You be at the bottom every time. Every time.
You want to laugh? They invented a thing in the playground for a motherfucker who wants to seesaw by themselves. It's the horse with the spring. Yeah. No, it's the horse with the spring on it. It's the little toy that got a spring on it. So you can rock hard as you want. And you gonna spring back and forth all day long by your goddamn self. I mean, you and gravity gonna have a ball. You know what I mean? It's the most selfish shit I ever seen in an active playground world ever. Even the push it.
It's the most boring toy out there. I know exactly what you're talking about. That shit boring as a motherfucker. You can't even add no games in it because you ain't going nowhere. You just in it one like this.
Nothing.
Rocking back and forth like you in an insane asylum.
Teaching kids young, boy. Patty walls, mom. Patty walls. But how about yourself, Dash? Where do you find yourself balancing your compromise and your need to compromise?
I'm along the same lines as you fellas. You know, like it's definitely something that's required equal partnership. Like whatever I'm giving, I'm expecting in return. You know, like whether you find it as like a stipulation or whatever, like that's just how it is. You know, like I don't want to be at this age pouring into a cup that isn't pouring into mine as well. Like what are we doing? You know, at the end of the day, I want to be building with somebody. Right. So I'm not at the phase of my life where I'm interested in just wasting my time, for the shits and giggles, like whatever I'm doing is with an intention in mind, for my long-term future. So, that's I gotta keep that in mind. Now I do have. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, question. How often do you feel as though you're applying the act of compromising?
Honestly, I'm not even gonna hold you. It's more times I feel like I'm not compromising than I feel like am compromising. Like um, and honestly, I'm figuring out who my people are that I want to compromise for. You know, like that's also important too. So I'm not just about to be out here compromising just to be Mr. Liked or be you know I guess liked from others, but like if I'm compromising for you, like you really mean something to me. Um, yeah, and I'm not just gonna do it for anybody. So yeah, I'm selfish until I don't need to be selfish. I guess that's how I feel. How
Got to
about
see
you?
it through, my boy. Got to see it through, my boy. Nah, but the funny thing about compromise is this. Like, in all honesty, there's a scripture in the word that talks about love. There's many scriptures in the word that talks about love. One of them, this is not verbatim, so don't quote me, but one of them speaks to the benefit of loving your enemies and those who don't love you. Because loving those who love you, you're no different than the hypocrites, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and all the other people who say this, that, and the third, but they live devilish lives behind the scenes and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I say that to say this. Compromise, one of those things, no matter what you do, no matter who you with, you got to do in order to build. Once you're talking about interaction with somebody outside of yourself, there has to be a compromise. Because like Kang said, when it comes to just one person, if you're just responsible and accountable for yourself, it's easy to find balance. And even if you don't want to find balance, you got to deal with the damages thereof. Nobody
Yeah.
else do. So it is
That's a
what it
lot easy.
is. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about building with somebody, and the only way to properly build is to build with somebody. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of shit for nothing. You're going to run a lot of lifespan out before you even get halfway through the foundation to be able to have some shit stick. Because nobody does anything alone. So when it comes to working with other people, you have to compromise. Whether you like somebody, whether you don't like somebody, whether you love somebody, whether you don't got love for somebody, no matter what the situation is. I ain't got love for Home Depot. I don't. I ain't got no love for Home Depot. I respect them. I'm grateful for the job, but I ain't got no love for them motherfuckers. But I gotta compromise. I gotta compromise my time. I gotta compromise my scheduling. I gotta compromise when these motherfuckers want me to go down to the other end of the department that I ain't got no purpose and no reason being down there. But there ain't no drivers in the building. It's a lot of compromise that come with it. But I signed a contract. We building something. Sis, what's going
How you
on?
feeling, AP?
Breathers. Hey. No, you was preaching. I was letting you get it in. You made me think about something though. There's a scripture and it's in Philippians that talks about you have to treat others superior to yourselves. And that's a hard thing when we live in a society that constantly tells us to feed our ego, right? And it gets painted under the guise of self-love and self-care. Those things are not inherently bad by themselves, but we got to be mindful, especially with any relationship, whether it's family, whether it's your mate, your significant other, whatever, that we are not eroding the relationship by feeding the ego first. That balance is definitely required. You mentioned that, like, I'm not about to be bending over backwards to not, have my partner bend over backwards. But here's the thing. Sometimes it's not this fluid and easy ride to getting your partner to meet you halfway. Um, so in those instances, do you have the endurance, so to speak, to wait till they arrive to that point of reciprocity? Sometimes you have to lead by example. Sometimes it's going to take many conversations, many debates before you actually arrive at that place of compromise. So really, it then becomes a decision of, are you compromising yourself, your values, your beliefs, or are you compromising in a manner in which is going to benefit both parties? And that's a hard line to walk. And fortunately, we want it to be easier. It should be 1 + 1 = 2, but sometimes the math don't be mathing right away. So that
I rock with
endurance
that.
comes into play. That perseverance definitely has to come into play with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So true. So
Mm-hmm.
true.
Okay,
I like that.
what you over there painting?
I'm just priming this canvas. None of this is permanent. This is just all priming.
This is artist stuff. I don't know what you speak of, but okay.
That's why I told him earlier. I told him it just looked
I'm just.
good, you know.
Y'all, hubby's here.
Oh
He's
yeah.
waving.
Jay! Jay, what
Actually, I'm
up?
What
glad
up?
he
What
here
up? What
because I
up?
wanna I wanna pose a question to the both of y'all. What's
He posed a question.
yeah, what do you feel has been the key for both of you? I mean, well, how has actually let me phrase this better. How have you guys learned how to compromise with one another and make that such a key in a relationship?
Wait, don't run. No, he said no. For me, it was, it was self-awareness, to be honest. I tell people all the time, Jared's 5 years older than me, so he definitely came with a maturity into our relationship that I did not necessarily have. And being that I had been a mom before I met him, I was a teen mom. By the time I was like in my 20s and we were dating and on our way to marriage, I definitely went through a phase of like selfishness. And then me having to be aware and be accountable for my own actions and recognizing like, yeah, you're being selfish. Like you want him to do A, B, and C. And I did, because it's like after you deal with a bunch of trash ninjas and you get a good one, it's like in your mind, you're almost like, this good one isn't allowed to make mistakes. This good one isn't allowed to get it wrong. And that was my perspective for a long time. Like, you're letting me down, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to hold him to a standard when really like a lot of the way I was moving was selfish. He was the one who was bending over backwards and really wasn't getting much in return. So it took some having to really look at myself and be like, nah, like this behavior needs to change. Once I was able to check myself, it made it easier because now I'm not clocking what he's doing. I'm clocking what I'm doing. And that made the conversations and approach to compromise a lot easier. And I had to stop looking at him like my opponent and as my partner.
Let
That
me
was it
ask a
for me, but
question. I want to ask a question because you said something really key. And I feel like this is something that a lot of relationships, like this is a threshold a lot of relationships have to pass through. And just because you pass through it don't mean that you ain't going to pass through it again. So
yeah.
it's a constant thing. So how can you discern? Let me see, because I want to be able to ask this question properly. And in instances in which the flare up of the moment might have you and your significant other at odds, seemingly at odds, how do you discern? Do you discern in the moment, or is it something that you come back to where compromise is a valuable and an integral element to help to mediate that place of tension and angst?
In the moment, if you're running off emotion, the best thing you could do for yourself is say, I'm running off emotion. we're not going to get to a compromise right now, at least for me. And I actually had to learn that because again, I would be ready to attack the issue and he would be like, I need to take a step back. And I was like insistent, like, now we got to fix this now. And then recognizing that there is no harm in giving a matter space to breathe and allowing your emotions to calm down. Because oftentimes when you're running off emotion, you're going to say something that you can't take back. A lot of times that adrenaline is going when you're feeling emotional. So you're not necessarily thinking in a balanced view and manner, which means you're not permitted to hear what the other person is saying. You are now listening to respond. You're not listening to hear. So I found that oftentimes, like if we table it, okay. Back in the day, it used to be let's table and smoke a blunt. I'm not smoking no more, but let me table. Let me go say a prayer. Let me go calm myself down. Let me go, center myself and find my grounding, and then try to approach this conversation. A lot of times now, we'll actually pray before we have a serious conversation, so that we're in the right mind and body and spirit to have that conversation. Because if you're not in the right space, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's not gonna happen. But did you want to? I don't want to take all that from you. Keep that. Yeah, but like it's being with somebody, and again, this applies now. I say all this, and I'll be completely transparent. I'm a lot more agreeable to these things with him, but I struggle with this same methodology with my family. And I know that sounds crazy, but like my family gets under my skin a lot easier. And I have I'm like, well, I won't say the black sheep in the family, but I am the outlier in the family. Okay. I'm not hated or anything like that, but I think differently. I move differently, which makes conversations that require compromise because we all live together. My entire family lives with me. It's 12 of us in this house. Okay. So it is me, my husband and my two boys, my sister, her husband, her two kids, my mom, my brother, my dad, and his wife. We
That's
all
a
live
lot of
together.
souls.
And that's a community of people coming from different backgrounds, coming from different situations. And although we're all family, we didn't all used to live together at some point. And so after decades of being apart, we are all under one roof. This requires an amount of compromise that you have never seen in your life. But one of the driving points for me is if other cultures and communities can do it, I don't see why we can't. But also, I'm having to check myself often because that spirit of compromise, I lack it. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Like, I just be like, the math will be mathing for me. You got to have patience. You have to hear other people out. And that's not necessarily easy for me in this space. So while I've been able to tackle that and get to a better spot with it within my marriage, it's a whole different story, with other people in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
How, damn. Well, do you ever see that changing, like, or could you foreshadow that ever possibly altering or at least shifting slightly?
I am working on it. And it's actively working on it. A lot of times I will come back to hubby and be like, check me, like help me. Because I know in a lot of ways my family has this thing where they always tell me like you are very headstrong and you don't like once you think it like that's it and you stay by and it's true. Like my mom and me got into a little spat a couple of weeks ago because she said you run off of logic too much. And in my head I'm like, because what else is there? What else is there? That's me. I'm like, I need my math to math, but I recognize that my mom is an emotional creature. While there's some logic, she's someone who runs off of love and, sacrifice for those types of things. I'm more of a give me boundaries. I can love you from over here. Like that's the type of person I am. If I'm not about to drain my energy and resources and pour into things that, I can't get anything back from, that is me. And she's coming from a place, my mother is one of those people who's just very maternal, has always felt a spiritual bond with motherhood. So even our views on that are very different. So I had to understand that I was very frustrated in that conversation. And I'm like, oh my God, like if it's not logic, who wants any parts of it? But I realized like, no, there's other facets and everybody is not going to think like that. And that's the thing is also remembering that my thought process is not going to be everybody around me's thoughts process, which is also why compromise is so key. It just happens to be much harder for me with my family than it is, again, with my husband. Even in my friendships, like my friends be over me because don't call me with the stupid because I'll be the first. We're not having this conversation. Like Courtney in here somewhere, she know we be going at it because I'm like, look, I'm hanging up. I'm gonna give you the real, but even in those spaces, it's like, am I really hearing this person, or am I just doing my Alicia thing? And it's hard. It's hard when you have to acknowledge that, despite how I feel about it from a logistical standpoint, people's feelings are still their feelings, and their emotions are still their emotions, and you cannot tell people how to perceive things or how to feel things. And that I think is the hardest part is trying to gain that understanding when I really don't understand. And you could explain it to me to get black and blue in the face, but if I can't relate, I just can't relate. And that makes it hard for me. So I'm trying. It's definitely, I'm still trying.
Can I step in for a second? First of all, drop that try. I don't really do 3-letter words that are boring. Try is boring. That thought that you just got into though, right? Because see, if you look at compromise in the world of business, it's quickly labeled as understanding what is need to be done to get something achieved or expressed or under a cross. If we could pull compromise to a place of where understanding and compromise are partially cousin, we can have way better human interactions just because the basic principle of compromising is allowing someone else's presence to be in your presence, is just the simple rules of, hey, this is my seat, that's your seat. We sitting here today. You know what I mean? Understanding really does make
Mhm.
compromising easier. Like if you never knew the emotion of your mother, your level of working to understand her wouldn't be in effect. It would just be, nah, I ain't compromising with this shit. This don't make no sense. And I have been in plenty of situations where when I didn't want to understand something, I would be like, oh, all right, yeah, I'm railing it because I feel, what are we doing over here? This shit's boring. Get me into the next chapter. But learning to understand those joints made it more like, oh shit, this
Mhm.
how you work. That's me compromising my willings to be like understanding. Oh, all right, that's what that is. Okay. It don't change the outcome or how I feel, but I
Mm-hmm.
actually heard somebody now. Like I actually heard what you were saying. I listened because I took that little understanding window that exists inside of compromising, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
No, you're right. Because it has to be because I guess a desire to understand exists there for me. It's like I'm willing to do it. Like I'm already compromising because, like you said, I've been in the space where like I'm not trying to hear. I don't care what you're talking about. Like, all right, I hear you. Next, like, all right, send me an email. Bye. I get it. No, I get it
Yeah.
totally. I totally get it. But I think what always rings in my mind though is kill the ego. Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Mm-hmm.
there's just,
Absolutely.
and that's a
There's so
hard
much
thing.
power in that, yeah.
Yeah. And we don't
But
even, sometimes we don't even think that we're being egotistical because it's not maybe in a loud way. We're not walking around saying I'm the boss and I'm this, that, and the third.
that part,
But our way of thinking will really tell us if we're being fed by the ego or not. And you got to kill it, which is why, like, I always think about the fact, when we talk about humility, right? Like I said, I feel like we getting a lot of messages a lot lately from coaches online telling us,
yeah.
step
I
into your
know.
season. This is your power. And not that these things are, necessarily wrong, but if
They
you're
kind of need it though
working,
right now.
if you're walking in
They,
your purpose and you're doing what you're supposed to do, I have to remain humble. And I see way too many messages that are like, this isn't your humble season. You don't got to be humble. Nah, you always got to practice humility.
Oh
Always.
yeah.
Always. Because if
Always.
you don't, the moment you think you, like, I'm about to step it, I let my, whatever. And some people try to douse it in God to make it a better message. And I see right through that. Which I
oh,
feel conflicted about that. But it's like, the minute you think you about to do this not my humble season, you will get humbled. Trust me. And I know that because I've done it before. Like, you smell yourself a little bit. So you like, oh, I got these gifts. I got this skill. I got this. So what?
Mm-hmm.
So what? If you don't harness those gifts properly, no matter what they are, if you don't carry them accordingly, you will get humbled.
Mm-hmm.
So don't feed that ego and practice that humility. And sometimes it's hard because sometimes we feel like this is owed to me, like this is my time, or how come I see somebody else, doing A, B, and C, or, we may not understand it. And the one thing that humility allows you to do is to see that somebody else's experience it may not be your time that time for you to have
Exactly.
the experience.
Exactly.
And that's hard. But again, that's wrapped up in the ego. And again, I see a lot of messaging about
I'm a
it's my season to shine, this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, no.
Yo, I want to say something. I want to say something. This is to
go
all
ahead.
these people out here that are about this coaching life. This is my season. Put your humble side aside and all that. I bet you 95% of these motherfuckers is out here preaching something to get themselves some numbers, or in order to try to get you to get numbers and shit. And be like, hey, yo, follow this program right here. It's going to get you followers. Or, yo, follow this program right here. It's going to get you paid. But make sure that you kick a little tithe in my way. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, because, like you said, humility, look, I put myself on the chopping block. Real shit. I still struggle with humility. especially when my
It's
lady is
hard.
telling me something. Like,
Yeah.
it's super hard.
You human. You supposed to.
Everybody loves being right. There's
Yes.
very few things. There's very few things in life that feels good than knowing that you're right.
And
Very few things
when
in
you
life.
can confirm it, oh, the petty be coming out. I'm gonna hold y'all like I'm like, oh,
Oh
look,
Lord.
to this day, I'm gonna lie. 20 years later, this is not a lie. Jared tried to tell me that there was no Wawas in Connecticut where I grew up, right? And I was able to Google it and prove to him, like, my nigga, I know where I grew up. There's a Wawa. To this day, every so often, I like to remind him. Do you remember that time? Because it feels good to know I was right. I don't care if it's 20 years later. I'm still going to bring this up for posterity.
See, look, right? And so you partying with my favorite part, right? Because everybody be like, ego and all that shit. Me and my ego walked away from that lynching. You know what I mean? He was like, it's better to understand him, so that means I'm going to go party with him. You know what I mean? It's better to understand where it needs to be and what makes it feel and what does things for it than to
Yeah.
just get it away from me. Because over humility is beautiful. I get it. Yeah, be humility. Do all your humilians, whatever illities and titties on there you want to do. Do all those things. You know what I mean? Just be
Absolutely.
respectful. You know what I mean? Like, if you could be respectful, you can travel so far in this world. You know what I mean? Because some people can't operate
Nope.
in them brackets. You know what I mean? Being humble, some people like story wouldn't even have turned out great if they tried to be humble because it would have stopped them. My homie Quick the other day pointed out an amazing point. He's like, yo, you ever notice how some ball players suck? He's like, yeah. He's like, yo, but the crazy part is their attitude is trash. But it's probably the reason why they made it to where they made it at, because they had enough fire to push with it. So imagine if you spent the time understanding your ego instead of like lynching it, and it can now develop for it. Because guess what? You can kill your ego. You can put your ego on the shelf somewhere and hide it from the world and walk out feeling lovely one day. And let's make sure your outfit fly. And the perception from a motherfucker 3 rows to the left, go back, this motherfucker trying. Look at it.
Oh,
They trying to be seen.
yeah. Well, we
Yeah, her
know. Look,
makeup.
it's always going to be somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always going to be. And but that
You
brings
can
it back to
have
perception. Like, but here's my thing. I could do my best to interact with people in the manner in which they can feel respected, so on and so forth. But there are going to be people in this life who are committed to misunderstanding you. And as long as you operate from that space of knowing, I used to feel like I had to defend my honor and I had to adjust and explain and all of those things. And even with all of that, nothing was accomplished. Now the season I'm in is, look, if you want to know, we can have a conversation about it. But if you're committed to feeling as if, and I mean, this, to me, this is such small potatoes, but Jeide, you said something about the coaches who talk about strategy on Instagram, this, that, and the third. When I started building my Instagram page, I didn't recognize immediately that you could merge blogging with, Instagram, because Instagram was Wild Wild West back then. So I was a little late to the game. And so once I figured it out and I figured out what my platform was going to be, I decided to speak from the space of chronic illness. This just happened to be what I was going through with my life. So I decided to share it openly because I felt like other people could relate. And I probably would have done better had I had resources and information available to me. But what that did was created a platform that grew. And while many celebrated it, and I had plenty of, homies, partnerships, the whole 9 yards, there were people who literally were like, she don't deserve it. Or she bought her followers, or she's pandering to this. Like, it was so many different perceptions, right? But if you really bothered to get to know me, if you really were paying attention to my content, you would understand where the passion was coming from to have these conversations so openly. Like, I still to this day, like, I had weight loss surgery and I was very open about it and documented the whole journey because I felt like people in my shoes are going to need to know. They're going to need to understand what this process is like. And I lost thousands of followers once I started documenting that journey. And the messages that came from people were very much like, well, I was comfortable with you being larger because it made me feel better about myself. But now that you're not, like, I can't really mess with you and your platform. So you was never really here for the message. You know what I mean? You were never really here for that. And it didn't matter how many, and I mean, at this point I've stopped, but there was a point where I was like responding to people individually because I thought it was so important to like explain to them like, no, this is not what that is. Like this is not an ego trip. Like they out here thinking, oh, you're just bragging because you can wear smaller clothes. I'm like, the more important part is I can walk right now because I was able to get hip replacement
Right.
kicked out. Like,
Right.
but people, when they want to be committed to misunderstanding you, they're going to do it. It don't matter how much you ego check yourself. I've had plenty of conversations like, I don't know if I should post this or not because I don't want to upset anybody. And I had somebody, and
No,
I'm
don't
so
even think
grateful to
about that.
her. Yeah, but nope, but it happened. And I had a follower tell me, for the people who really rock with you, they understand. Like, do not stifle your joy
That part.
because of how it might upset some other people. So even finding that balance between what's being egotistical and what is me literally just sharing joy, that's a hard line to walk. It's such a fine, nuanced balance you got to find. It's crazy.
You know,
It's crazy.
do y'all know that joy is the highest thing sold on the
Mm.
market of emotions? Because it's the only one that can tie somebody to tears like pain and fear. Joy is a high emotion that motherfuckers, in reality, I feel like have such a little interaction with. That's why they can't begin to understand and compromise. Because if you don't have little pieces of joy for yourself, it is very hard to walk out and see somebody else flourish. I don't give a fuck if a nigga grew one petal last night. You gonna be like, some bitch, we was in the same sun yesterday for 15 hours getting roasted. We got the same water yesterday. How the fuck I can't even get a half a petal? This nigga 4 petals up. And I've been here just as long, not knowing tomorrow you might
Hold
get a
on,
whole drink when you
hold on.
wake
Let me
up.
add to that.
But fuck it.
And the killer of that motherfucker would be same people. The same people had so much spite in their heart that they would laugh at the other motherfucker when the dog came and take a shit right on their soil. Like same dirt.
Yeah, same dirt, nigga. We got the same
Whole
dirt.
time, the dog
We
shit
in the
he was
same.
laughing at. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Word. I'll tell you right now, it's wild. Like, it really, I think what we said something about joy is something so many people don't come into contact with. That's a real
That's
thing.
real. Yeah.
And what I tell everybody now, I'm like, after I spent 5 to 6 years in excruciating pain constantly in a way that you did not understand unless you were very close to me and you got to see that decline. At this point, like, I don't care what I got going on. It ain't what I had going on when I was at the height and the peak of that humility, that humble season, because that's that humble you quicker than some pain. And losing or, you know, what you once had, it made me stop taking for granted. Like, so I didn't wait until after I got my hip replaced to start finding that joy. I had to find it in the midst of that humble season. Like I had to find it. I had to find joy in the things that I could do.
Right.
So did I enjoy having to use a scooter or a walker? No. But did it allow me to be able to go out with my kids and be outside functioning? Yes. So I'd rather find the joy in being out here spending time with my kids than I would sitting at home lamenting. So now when I'm excited, because I could get up from my desk at work and walk to the bathroom. I don't even have to think a second thought about it. Like, I'm not calculating my steps. I'm not in my head like, oh, I hope this isn't too far. Like, that's real joy. Like, that's joy on top of joy. And I'm like, for everybody looking in, they're just kind of like, she wildin'. Like, you happy about walking? Yes, I am. Walking, strutting, you name it. I will forever, like, that joy, because once you've been humbled, and this is what I'm saying, like, once you've been humbled in a way that, even if it's not a vicious humility, like, oh, I did some wildish and, you know, I got some payback. Life can just humble you sometimes. Period.
Life
Life
will
can
humble
humble you
you.
out the blue. Like, if you can learn to ride those waves, if you can learn how to navigate through those waters and maintain your joy, like, that's a beautiful thing. Like, and I've taken that and I'm trying to apply that. Or let me not say trying, because you know how Kang feels about that. But
Yeah.
I'm applying that to my relationships, because I don't want my relationships to ever get so bad that on the back end I'm not able to repair them or fix them or whatever. So compromise, ego, all of those things, like keep them at the forefront of my mind. And I try to remember that, you know, had I taken a different route, because I was, trigger warning, suicidal ideation was very real those last 5 years. Had I decided to go that route, I wouldn't even be here to enjoy those relationships with my family, with my friends, with my loved ones. So compromise, it's doable. It's doable, even if it takes you a little bit more. But you also need to know when some people are not worth that investment. And that's fair
Mm-hmm.
too. And don't ever let anyone make you feel bad for having to set boundaries and cut people off.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one
So
thing I learned along this ride is everybody ain't still here.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
it hurt my feelings. And it was sobering. It was
Oh yeah,
sobering because I'm
it is.
like, I never expected it to be this person, that
Mm-hmm.
person. But you know what? I feel a lot better. I feel a
Look,
lot better. Like, you're not here
Can
because
I
you're
tell
not supposed to be.
you?
look.
that part.
You know what happens when people get out the car? You need less gas. You know what I mean? Like you get a little bit further. And the more motherfucker get out the car, it's actually a good thing. You know what I mean? Like if you had a bus full of 40 motherfuckers, it'd be cool to get by 5 left. These are
Mhm.
expensive. You know what I mean? We only need to take me to actually travel. Especially if you getting off because I'm happy. Like you leaving because I didn't got happy to do a simple thing like be present and be able to walk with my child into school. You mad because I'm happy about this? Like, you know what
Social
I
media
mean?
culture, and I'm sure
Man,
y'all
fam,
see it because y'all are online. Y'all have your talk show. As you guys have grown and developed your talk show, have you seen your audience change? Have you gotten feedback that maybe is adverse because you guys went in a direction that they didn't anticipate you going in? How's that been for y'all?
Yeah, we've had that a couple
Um,
times.
yeah, a few
We've had that a
times.
couple times.
I actually dealt with some of that when Jeide was gone. That was kind of rough. Yeah, that first 2 weeks. Um, I had one guy who was just like repeatedly up on here. He was just like riding my ass on some stupid shit, and it was like really pissing me off. Like, cause he was like, I don't know what his problem was, but he was just like poking at me, and then like when the racial slurs started coming in like throughout the live, that's when I finally just like kind of went ahead and just blocked it, because before I was just like just trying to chalk it because it wasn't nothing. It was just like a little shit talking, just like, yo, your hat look funny, or yo, I don't like the way your hair is cut, like little shit like that. So I'm just like, all right, you know what? It is what it is. Like, but when he got to the racial tone, like, yo, you black as shit. Like, I was like, all right, you know what? You done. All right. So for me,
I
it's
hate
trying,
people.
yeah, I'll give people their way to talk, like to a certain extent. Like when you get to the racial tones, that's where the line is drawn for me. Of course, family too, but I mean, it didn't get to the family part. So yeah, race, family, but anything else, I let it go because I treat it like sports. I can take an insult, I can take somebody critiquing me. And I honestly like the feedback when people do critique us. Like whether they agree with what we saying, how we viewing or whatever. And then a few times with Jetty and myself, we done had viewers like they express their opinions about topics that we had, or even guests that we had on the show, and the
Mm-hmm.
guests expressing their topics. So it is what it is. Like you deal with each situation as it occurs. I try to meet people with peace and like at the same understanding of like, look, we're all individuals. I can't control what a person says, but like if I offer them a platform, I'm giving them that platform to express themselves. Now I can offer you that same platform to express yourself as well, but also know that we're not in the market to create, controversy. Like once
Right.
we give you
Shit.
that platform, that's it. Like it ain't gonna be a back and forth of going, and even that is not. Well, Jetty, he differs on that. Like I'm more, you can get your words in. Like as long as
I'm
it's part of the show. Like you're not just
look,
getting on here just to spew hate. Like you getting
look,
on here, you
Yeah.
going to talk about this topic, and if it relates to what you got to get off, then you can get your rocks off.
look. I'm gonna keep it 100. There was many times. I ain't gonna say many. There was several times that I know I had to compromise who I am to the core. That even to this day, it's kind of bitter. It's kind of bitter. It's like I look in my memory bank, and it's like I don't like that dude. I don't like the fact that I had to eat so many bites of that dish neither. I don't like that because I appreciate my food. I'm a man that really appreciates my food. So there's a couple of places looking back and knowing that I had to eat that slimy piece of shit that I was like, y'all, look, man, look, the maybe in positive vibes, maybe emphasizing that in certain instances in which we've had guests and we've had comments that I would sit here and be like, I should say something to that and just be all the way raw because that would be in the vein of what the maybe is. I had to compromise that and really come into a space where I knew that this was larger than just the controversial point. Even though I would have been entirely right semantic wise, syntax wise, I would have been completely right if I decided to be a straight asshole and went all maybe. And yo, that. But
See, but that's that compromise shows
Yeah.
up in different ways and different facets. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I like the way the show has grown. I think the first episode I watched with y'all was debating Drake.
Probably,
Debating
yeah.
Drake. Yeah.
We didn't
And I
grow.
was,
We didn't grow.
y'all have grown. I mean, and I was here for the Drake debate because I'm a Drake fan. I don't care what nobody says. All the way back to Degrassi. You gonna let me live? I was just saying right now. I was hyped because I was watching Degrassi while I was on vacation this week, and it was Drake as Jimmy on the drums, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so old." That was the first episode I watched of y'all. I had no idea who Dash was, and I just remember talking about Marvin's Room being a Dirty Mackin song. This is what y'all was talking about.
Yeah. I remember the episode.
But I had no idea that y'all were going to grow your platform to be what it has become, which I've enjoyed watching that evolution and growth because I don't think you can pigeonhole anybody into something. And I think that's the hardest lesson when you're visible on social media is sometimes your audience feels like you owe them who you were when you began. And you just don't. You just don't. Like,
I
you
dealt with
don't
a
owe
lot of that.
anybody the same person you were a year ago. If I decide to change, and that change is vastly different from 2 weeks ago, that's a non-compromisable. Okay. If I've made an effective decision to make a change in my life that works for me, I'm gonna need y'all to respect it. You know what I mean? You don't have to ride the ride with me, but this is where I'm gonna be, and this is where I feel like compromise is something that I'm not gonna do that. Like, compromise is not always doable if it's going to be to the detriment of who you are evolving to become.
yes.
Hey, my child,
Yes.
we have a guest.
Hey, what's up, little man?
What's up?
This is Jackson. Jackson, say hi. Hi.
What's
This
up,
is my twin,
Jackson?
in case y'all can't know. Now you have to leave because these are grown-ups and they're saying grown-up things.
Well, every time I try to watch something on Netflix, keeps on logging me out.
Hey, Jelani, can you assist your brother? No, like, take Jelani. Hey, child of mine. This is the other child in the house. Can you come take your brother and the dog? Okay, everybody's in here. Bye, Skip.
It's
Close
a
my
family
door.
affair.
It's over. No, listen. He is my twin. Hey, Tay. Look, listen. I just family affaired with them all week in Florida. It is time to unfamily. It's time to unfamily. I love them. Please don't get me wrong. I love them, but this is not compromisable. This is the time for them. Look, listen. Close my door.
That's like,
Close my door.
that's where
Let me tell you something. Dash, you ain't got no kids. And I just want to say this, and I'm just going to sound so horrible because I'm a mom, and everybody thinks that as a mother, you're supposed to feel a way about motherhood. But to all of my people who don't have children, y'all are my heroes. I admire y'all and live your best life. I am not pushing nobody to procreate, have kids. If that's what you want to do, please, by all means, but never let nobody make you feel bad. If you are single, unattached, and child free, you are rich in my eyes. You are rich with time. You are rich with freedom. You are rich with abundance of blessings to have to focus on nobody but yourself and compromise a whole lot less. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Just put that up.
Yes, Real time. Real time.
Listen.
One thing I
When that word compromise makes me think of so much stuff because me and Jay are getting ready to do an episode for A&J podcast where we talk about parenthood. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Jessica Rose. She
I
made a
heard her on
brand
a
off of.
podcast before.
Oh, have you? She's so years ago she got famous off of doing the Baby Daddy Tears brand, where she wrote these rap songs. Light skin, black John. She had a little girl, and over the years it's grown. Like she really has like a whole brand on Baby Daddy Tears, and it's just her experience as a single mom. Recently, she shared on a podcast where she regrets motherhood, not her child, but she regrets motherhood. And she's a comedian, so she has joked about it, but has said things in a raw way. Kind of like, Chappelle be joking about stuff, but it be some real stuff.
Real stuff, yeah.
And it has caused
Well,
so much
comedy is real life.
division. It's caused a lot of division for people because they don't like the way she's presenting the information, which, I don't agree with everything that she says. We have different beliefs about a lot of things. But when it comes to the conversation of motherhood, I think we don't leave women enough room to be honest about how they feel. And I was glad to see that she said a lot of things she said because I feel like it will normalize other women being able to be honest. And also understanding how much community and village is really needed to raise children. And that's even with a partner. So that will be me and Jay's next podcast that we record. But
I like
I
that.
think compromise
When's that episode dropping?
next week.
Okay.
We should have recorded this week and we were on vacation, so we took a break. But
That's okay.
that's going to be the next conversation because I feel like what I do appreciate about social media, despite, all the coaches, is there's a plethora of topics to discuss. And everybody has an opinion, and you can give one if you have a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm here for it. I would love to see, and I would love to, we need to have y'all on the show for real.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I feel like we need to brainstorm some topics that y'all feel compelled and passionate about. Like we really should have had y'all on the last episode, and we might need to circle a block on that because I would really like your opinion on fat phobia in dating. And I'm only asking this because I love y'all. Y'all been my brother. And so there's just a whole lot of, and we won't even say this is just restricted to fat phobia. This is just restricted. This is because you are of a place where you're dating Dash. I would like to hear your opinion on, do you think it's prejudice? Let's not even call it fat. It's not just fat phobia, but is it prejudice to not date somebody because of their race? Or is it prejudice to not date somebody because of their size? Or is it prejudice to not date somebody because of their financial status? Prejudice versus preference. Like, I feel like that would be a good conversation.
Absolutely.
That's always a great conversation to have. But
Because this is definitely, and I feel like, in some manners, me and Jared may be out of the loop a little bit because we're married and we may not have much to offer to the conversation, but I would love to have it with y'all because I feel like y'all can keep it raw. Y'all gonna keep it raw. You're gonna be
I'll let
honest.
you know our opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Our opinions on
let us know because we would love to have y'all back at the show. Y'all know we shout y'all out on every episode too. Like you, my girl Carmelita has talking ish. Like we try to keep up with all of our podcast fam, but y'all definitely get lots of love from us, and we need to reconnect again. It's been a while since we've done the show together.
That's a fact.
We
I was
got
just thinking about
to,
that the
and you
other
too,
day.
Kang.
I don't know. Listen. I'm behind the scenes, like that's why I'm over here paying my business. I'm just listening.
I hear you, but you have stuff to offer the conversation. And the thing I also appreciate is we're speaking when we talk about topics like family and things like that. We're coming from the perspective of being parents, but we want to hear from people who are not parents. As much as there are people who are like, you ain't got kids, you ain't got nothing to say. I don't agree with that
See, I like hearing
at
your
all.
perspective because like
We
that's
want to
what
hear
I'm
it
looking
all
forward
because
to.
I feel like when you are a parent already, you're kind of in the trenches, right? And so when I'm talking to my friends who are just now having babies or whose kids are toddlers,
Yeah, I
I
want to
have a
know
different
all the
approach.
information before I have one.
Like I got a different approach because I got an adult child already, and that's like, you know what I'm saying. Like, so when we're having these conversations, I'm coming from the vantage point of somebody who's been in the game for a long time, even though my youngest is 6. But that doesn't mean that I can't stand to learn something new from younger parents. Maybe they have fresher eyes on things. Maybe they have information and resources that didn't exist when I was having my first child. And I know that to be true because by the time I had my second and third, there were new pieces of information. There's so many topics like gentle parenting that I see coming up, and how culturally for Black folk, some of us are very resistant to it. Some of us are on board with it, and it's causing like this division. But I feel like these conversations should be had, and I think they should be had amongst not just parents, but people who are considering having children, because you want to be in the loop. You want to be in the know about what's going on before you step your foot in it. So we're always down to have y'all, even if your family dynamic is different, because I think the conversation is helpful to have it come from people in different backgrounds and give a well-rounded, balanced, view of opinions. And I think people learn better that way.
Yeah.
So we're down to have y'all, whether it's about kids, marriage, whatever the case may be, we down to have
We talk
y'all
about it
here on
all, like,
topics. Yeah, you talk about it all. It don't matter to me.
right.
We can get
The
down with
modern
that.
said that'll be a good topic. Absolutely. Prejudice versus preference. We would have you to Namada because I really want to know. Like, I be trying, like, I get in trouble on TikTok. Like, I be having to be quiet because I be wanting to stitch everybody and talk junk. Like, that's just me. Like, let me just give my opinion. But I was really, and the other, I don't know if y'all saw it when the girl who was like, if you're a millennial parent, you effed your kids up. And she explained all the reasons why millennial parents are trash parents, because their parents were trash parents to them. I don't know if y'all saw that. She was like, we're financially
No.
illiterate. We don't know how to do A, B, and C. Like, she ran down this list of things. And I was like,
Hold on.
I really wanted to give her a hug. I really wanted to give her a hug.
That part.
But even when I'm seeing that, I'm like, we need to be having conversations about this. Because there are a lot of podcasts responding, but everybody with a mic
don't need to be speaking. That's a major fact.
I'm gonna say one thing. The only one thing I'm gonna say is the one thing I notice about parenting that people don't want to account for is it go right back to fucking understanding, and people fucking suck at understanding. A kid, a child, a baby, that's some shit you ain't. I don't care how many you have, them motherfuckers different. Each little one come with his own unwritten manual that you gonna have to sit there and go through as it go through, and you gonna learn every time it learns something, but it better learn 4 things before you court the one. People don't want to give that patience to a partner, to someone else outside of themselves. And if that's how you feel as a person, don't go have a kid.
Say it. But here's the kicker about that. I'm gonna tell you right now, because this is what I was telling Derek. Like, we were watching my girlfriend Les, she was talking about her response to Jessica Rose. I said, Les was making the point that they don't tell you what motherhood is really like. And Jared didn't understand her statement. And as she was talking through it, and I'm telling Jared, I'm like, listen, she's not lying. Okay? Even your mother sometimes, because they come from a different time and motherhood was explained to them in a different way, nobody really talks to you about how motherhood, as much as it's supposed to be a spiritual journey, you're bonding with this thing, and I call it a thing, that's taking up space in your body and changing everything about you mentally, emotionally, hormonally, all of those things. There's not enough conversation about the aftermath. There's just not. There is not. And there's not enough conversation about the impact on mental health, the emotional, while you're trying to learn a new look human. If you don't have patience with yourself prior to having kids,
Don't do it.
Don't do it. And unfortunately for me, back when I was having my first child, I was 18, I was trauma responding from a lot of things in my life at the time and didn't even know that I was in survival mode. So being a good mom looked different to me, what I thought being a good mom was. When I was telling Jared how even with a partner, it takes a village and a community to really, when they talk about it takes a village to raise kids, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. Because the amount of things, like if they sell parenthood to you as this, you're going to raise a human being, it's going to be great. we need to talk about how babies have personalities before they ever make it into this world. And y'all need to understand that there's a whole human that, yeah, you could guide, you can do whatever, but they're going to be their own little selves, their own little personalities. And it's work. It's work. They don't prepare women. I don't think they talk enough about your rights for birthing. It's so many different aspects that, listen. And, you know, Jay was asking me, he was like, do you feel like there's room? Because, you know, a lot of my platform is on health and wellness. And he's like, do you feel like there's room for you to like expand into that? I'm like, oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But if I'm going to do this, I really do want community behind this. And that doesn't mean just women. You have the partners of people, and I mean active fathers, not just niggas out here dropping loads and leaving. But parenting looks different for a man than it does a woman. The expectation for a male parent is different than a mother. I want to talk about all those things because I feel like if more people had a more insightful view of it versus what gets packaged and kind of put out there, like mom's going to bring home the baby, dad's going to go to work, and he's going to take care of the household, and he doesn't have to do anything, gets to come home, swing the baby around, tell her how beautiful the baby is. No. Like, no, this is a real, these are conversations that I feel like need to be happening.
Look,
what's wrong, Jetty?
I'm only going to interject because, one, we already at 8:05, and I personally, I'm going to be on your side when we come to this conversation too, because I gotta get back to my daughter. My time is limited, so that's one. Two, I gotta add to that right there as far as the just like the dynamics of the father and the mother in the relationship, and in the dynamic with the baby and whatnot. Look, sir, speaking about compromise, look, let me tell you something. My days off is when I'm working.
Yep.
That's something that my lady had to put me onto, and that's something I was already thinking about before she even brought to my attention. She was just like, look, I'm here 24/7. Like, you go to work, but that's your time away. That's your breathing time, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So that means that when I have my off days, it's not an off day. That's when I have to pick up a lot of slack, as much slack as I can. You know what I'm saying? For the times that, you know, my lady would have to hold it down, relatively the most of it on her own, as far as taking care of our child, as far as the pampering, as far as the feeding, as far as trying to get her to sleep. She's active, and I ain't gonna say she's stubborn. She's not stubborn. She's extremely sharp, but she's active. She's active. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot. It is a lot.
But we need more conversation, and I really think father's input, and I love the fact that you talk about the role that you play. This is why I think it'd be dope to have you and Jared, because he was an active father and not just, you know, by name. Like, nah, he was doing them night feedings. He was doing the whole 9 yards. He was getting up, taking them to doctor's appointments, shifting his work schedule if needed. Because parenting needs a different approach. It's parenthood. And to me, it's really, none of us were designed to do this on our own. But people don't be ready for those conversations either about being a single parent. And how it could get done. It can, but we weren't designed to do that on our own. We just weren't at all.
At all. I'll tell you.
Because if we were, we'd be all reproducing on our own without the help of a partner.
Look. This is the last thing I'm gonna say before I drop up out of this thing. So this will be my last thing that I'm gonna put on the table. I'm gonna keep it all the way funky. Y'all can flag me if y'all want. I don't give a fuck who listening. Flag Jetty 8-track for this motherfucking statement right here. Cause if you a single mom, I'm gonna go on and say it. Likelihood that you're bitter, you in the 98th percentile. Likelihood that you're bitter if you a single mom, 100%. And I'm not saying that for any other reason than what my sister said, the aftermath. The pregnancy is the easiest part. The aftermath. The impact of that aftermath, and you accountable for a whole young soul that you got to take care of that don't give a fuck about how you feel at the end of the day. You're supposed to have a supporting system. So y'all go ahead and flag me. Shit, single mothers, y'all.
No, we just gotta schedule Kaang. Go ahead and schedule the. Let's schedule it. We gonna do this. We gonna talk about it. And Dash, yes, your insight is still welcome. Like I say, even though you may not be a father, You are somebody's child. So you have your own opinions. You have experienced the other end of parenthood, being somebody's child. And this is why I feel like everybody's feedback and input is necessary in changing those conversations around parenting. Absolutely. Love you. Can you please send me a picture of the
Hey,
baby? Can you ask? Can I get a picture of the baby?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting on the photo shoot. I'm waiting on the photo shoot. I'm waiting on the
I
photo
know.
shoot.
Because
You know what
I
I'm
feel some
saying?
type
It's
of
the
way.
lab
I'm
down
feeling some
here.
type of way.
I
I'm
know,
feeling
I
some
know.
type of way. No, I'm just
We
kidding. I know
got
y'all
you.
got to do things at your time. Yeah.
We got
I
you
miss
though. We
y'all.
got you. I miss
And
you too,
I can't
sis.
wait to see y'all. I will see you guys. Have a good night. Tell Purpose I
Yep.
said hello.
I will. I
Kiss the
will. I
baby.
will. I will.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace. All right, guys. That was an episode of Positive Vibes, maybe. PVM, the talk show. Those that just left, that was AP Blog and Jeide Track, myself and King are left. So make sure you guys follow the YouTube page at Positive Vibes Maybe. Like, follow, and subscribe to the Patreon channel, our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook as well. And guys, we'll see y'all Wednesday for a brand new episode, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, love your loved ones, cherish your moments, and enjoy your vices. It's Sunday night. Fly, Eagles, fly.